is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Your war room for insider news and draft analysis from deep within the confines of Cowboys headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
Dallas selects Emmitt Smith, running back from Florida.
And now your hosts, David Hellman, Jeff Kavanaugh, Kevin Turner, and Kyle Yeomans.
There are 42 days, 7 weeks, no, 6 weeks.
There you go.
Math is hard.
Journalism isn't a math
It
thing.
100% isn't. Until the NFL draft,
6 times 7.
supposedly in Las Vegas, Nevada. Of course, there are some question marks on whether or not there is going to be some drafts festivities overall in Las Vegas. I mean, everything's kind of been shut down, but we are still here. We're ready to go. We have lost Jeff Kavanaugh, at least for the week. He is doing something called baseball.
Yeah, he's at spring
training, whatever that is. And then David Hellman, KT, Kevin Turner across the table. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Thanks for joining us here on the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. It's been a weird week. It really has. Because, one, this is one of the most important weeks that we've seen in recent Dallas Cowboys news because of the contracts. It's the big 3 C's is what it is. It's contracts, it's the CBA, and then it's coronavirus.
I was wondering. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Those are the 3. It's been dominating storyline.
This week has aged me about a year, I think. And I mean, you can have whatever opinion you want about the severity of all of this, but it's definitely become a story of worldwide prominence. Oh, and by the way, the NBA has suspended its season.
Yeah.
The NHL looks like it might suspend its season.
Heavy rumors on that right now.
The NCAA tournament is currently set to be played behind closed doors, but I won't be surprised if that gets suspended as well. Mm-hmm. So with 6 weeks to go, it's totally fair to wonder what that means for the NFL draft. Like, as it sits right now, and obviously, like, so much is going to change, but it wouldn't shock me if, we were joking before the show, like maybe they'll do the draft from a conference room.
They might.
I mean, and
it's a very good point.
Rightfully so, if it's in the best interest of the public, honestly.
Just take it into a convention center, kind of like how they used to do it.
Yeah, I mean,
throw it in.
It's funny to think
a big auditorium.
It's funny to think that this whole thing used to just be, they called it like the draft convention or something. Like no, they called it the draft meeting. Like back in the day, they would just sit around a table and be like, that guy, and
check
just go, and then obviously it's developed into something completely different, much like the rest of the NFL. But maybe you go back to that. I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine, unless things significantly improve over the next 3 to 4 weeks, that they're going to want 150,000 people crowding into downtown Las Vegas.
A couple things interesting that the NFL does is they don't really announce next year's draft until, after this year's draft. So
I think they do it draft weekend.
Okay, so it really wouldn't be hard, though, to go, okay, Vegas, you're going to get it again next year. And do it the way they used to. They already make the picks remotely.
Yeah.
So, if it's Rich Eisen of the NFL Network for the TV deal, because that's what they're worried about, obviously. Yeah. Not only the gathering of people, but they also want to make sure that people are watching on TV, which people will be doing, no matter where you do it. So that's not a problem. You just go 1 year without having the big draft party.
Well, it's probably a problem in the sense that hotel rooms have been booked for months and all of the
equipment and signage.
They were talking about. They were talking about having the first round picks cross like the Bellagio fountain on a boat or whatever. So no, I mean there's a lot of no, I'm not. Dumb. That's not a joke.
No, they were going to bring them in on a boat, and then they were going to drop them off on a dock, and then from that dock they would walk up over the stage and
so it's not necessary.
And of course, it's not necessary. None of this is. But it's Las Vegas, and it's the NFL. But the point being is there's a lot of resources already committed to making this thing fantastic. And so, that's money that Las Vegas and the NFL will probably have to eat. Although, if you push it back a year, at least you have a chance to recoup that later. But, I mean, to your point, people always ask me, they're like, oh, are you going to whatever city the draft is in for the draft? Which on the surface makes sense, but not really. Because if it's our job to cover what the Cowboys are doing, everybody important for the Cowboys is about 200 feet that way.
Absolutely.
During the draft. And they have press conferences here. They bring the pick here. So there's no real need to be out there. So if push comes to shove, if coronavirus prompts them to have to change up what they do with the draft, other than the lost revenue for Las Vegas, I don't think it would be a hard fix to just do this all remotely, because that's kind of what it is anyway.
Well, and over the course of today's show, we're going to talk about some reckless comps. Of course, the draft show presented by Miller Lite. We're going to talk about reckless comps. We're going to talk about Twitter on the 20. Of course, we'll keep that in the loop as well. But kind of sticking with this conversation, it doesn't really get real. A pandemic now, as the World Health Organization has deemed it. It doesn't necessarily get real until it starts affecting your personal life, really. Now, some earlier than others were affected by this, but we're going to start seeing some NFL draft coverage and exactly the entire draft process starting to be affected by this. Pro days. Mm-hmm. What's going to be the stigma around that? Are we going to have media pro days? Are we going to have pro days at all? Are those going to be canceled? I mean, you're talking about some of these guys who didn't have measurements in the NFL Combine because they're running at the pro day, because they're doing those drills at their pro days. And we may not even get a chance to see some of those guys and evaluate some. Now, I'm sure they'll do a workout. I'm sure it'll be streamed or something with just minimal people in the building. But that's my question to you guys is, what are some of the options now, best case scenario, for really the entire draft process moving forward?
That's a really good question. And I mean, yeah, you're starting to see the effects of that already. You know, it sounds like at least a couple of staffs, you know, the Eagles were one of them, are like pulling their scouting staffs off the road until you get a better feel for this thing. I've also heard, like, you know, if it's possible, and it's definitely not in all instances, but if it's possible, I think scouts are going to avoid air travel in favor of driving. I mean, it's a safer prospect. And again, you know, Oklahoma's pro day was yesterday. Obviously, Cowboys scouts can get to that without an airplane.
Yeah, and it was a crowded house. Like,
no doubt.
It was like different for Hurts and Gallimore and CeeDee Lamb.
I think it still will be. I don't know. I mean, this is all so much up in the air, but I think a lot of this stuff, and again, because I mean, I know a lot of scouts go to pro days, but it's still, you know, it's not thousands of people. You're probably talking about 80 to 200 people, depending on how big the pro day is. And I'd be curious to see how many of them actually get outright canceled or shut down or something like that, because the size of the crowd leads me to believe you could probably still do it with minimal risk. But they're really just getting started. Like, we're in the early days. Like, they kind of hit their peak at the end of March and early April. So I'm curious to see how all of this affects what these schools do.
Wisconsin knocked out their pro day yesterday too.
Auburn was like early last week.
Yeah, no, I mean,
like crazy.
Some of them knock it out the week after the combine, which I see that as silly, because if you can't work out at the combine, you're probably not going to be ready a week later.
Yeah, I just went there for a reason, because my guy Quintez Cephas, the wide receiver.
Yeah, did he run a better 40?
He turned his 4.73 into a 4.56.
Are you serious?
So yeah, at his pro day.
Did they cut him off at 38 yards?
Wisconsin gave him 0.17 seconds at the pro day. You know what? I'll say this though. I know my reckless comp for him is Michael Gallup, by the way.
Yeah, you've said it. But no, we know you love Quintez Cephas.
But Jeffrey Okudah from Ohio State said that's the best wide receiver he faced all year.
He did say that.
Keep that in mind.
Wow.
Quintez Cephas back on the round 4 radar.
I mean, it's funny though. I talked to a scout in Indy, and we were kind of talking about pro days and combine times and all that, and I've always thought that was silly. Like, you know, people will say like Ohio State has a downhill track, or, you know, it's a fast track.
Broadus to tell you that?
No, which I'm
unreal.
And I've been rolling my eyes at Broadus for 6 years, and this scout was like, oh no, like it's a thing. Like, most of these guys are going to run significantly better times at their pro days. I just think that's fascinating.
Then why run at the combine?
Yeah,
then?
Seriously, it's a really good point.
Don't put a bad time out there.
Probably because the same scouts will ding you for not wanting to compete, or wanting to stand on your workouts. I don't know.
I'm dinging guys for not washing their hands.
Yeah, I think that's the big one now. Not having hand sanitizer nearby. That's a big thing.
Got some Lysol over here.
And we do have a ton of Lysol and sprayed it down earlier. But with all this being said, and kind of going back to that conversation we were having earlier, and you kind of brought this up a little bit, how are guys going to be tested going into this process because you don't know where it's been and what kind of sickness and contact they've been having. We talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff. I mean, Ross Blacklock had 37 parking tickets during his time at TCU, and all these background things. What are these staffs going to have to look at?
Any of these guys been to Italy recently?
Yeah.
I don't know. Which, it's not the draft, but it affects the draft. I was thinking about this in regard to free agency. There's debate about whether you need to move that back. I don't really think you do. Because, again, this is something you can all do remotely. Free agency is done via smartphone these days. But at the same time, though, I don't know. Do you want to give out a $60 million contract to a guy that might have coronavirus? I'm not trying to be flippant or make a joke about it. I'm dead serious. That seems like pertinent information if you're going to be handing out major contracts.
It's the same conversation that we've had in the past about guys who have injury histories in the draft. I remember the Auburn offensive lineman a few years ago, Sean Coleman, and he had cancer growing up. He had cancer as a kid. Yeah. And it was do you have to ding him a couple of rounds because the chances that comes back are greater for him than someone else? And okay, I'm sliding this guy down the board thanks to something he's got no control over. Mm-hmm. It's a hard thing to, it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's also something that realistically needs to happen. One thing I've thought about is think about the 30 visits who are going to come in.
Oh, yeah.
These guys, not only for the teams who are bringing these kids in, but also I've got to visit with the Cowboys, then I've got to visit with the Raiders, then I've got to visit with the Lions. Oh, by the way, the Redskins want to see me, and the Panthers want to see me. And then, these guys have really 10 visits. They're flying all over the place.
Yeah. If you are on a lot of lists like that, I remember, and obviously he's a top 5 pick, but teams, the Cowboys bring in guys from every round of the draft. I just remember in 2016. Zeke must have hit 12 teams in 14 days. He was on, just one thing after another. He went from Philly to Dallas to wherever the hell else, Cleveland. And that's and you can't do all that in a car.
No, so not at all.
That's a really interesting conversation about how they might have to alter this thing if this virus is really as contagious as it seems to be.
It's kind of too late to centrally locate a 30 visit schedule and piece all that together.
Do a speed dating things. Everybody meet at the Omaha Convention Center, and we'll give
smack dab in the middle of the country.
We'll give each team a table, and you just 10 minutes.
But don't you want to talk to the guy? Don't you want to talk to the guy?
Yes,
especially. I feel like that's very important. I don't think you get enough time before you make these selections.
Well, isn't that already what they do basically at the combine? Is 15-minute speed dating informal?
But that's the thing is you don't get the real feel for it.
No, not at all.
And you're limited to 45 guys, so you're picking and choosing. The 30 visits, it's a whole thing. They're here. They spend a night here. They're here for a day and a half. They meet everybody, and we talk about this every year. They almost always draft guys, especially in the first round, that they got their hands on and really got a feel for when they came here.
Also, not to mention, of course, coaches just getting to know a guy, getting to talk through schemes and boards, and kind of just look at specific fits. I know we've talked about scheme fit versus best player available and stuff like that, but you get to just kind of know the guy personally, know what kind of football IQ he has, and have kind of just a better overall look at these guys instead of just saying, hey, how's it going, and kind of talk during the NFL Combine. But we'll put all the coronavirus talk in the rearview mirror for now, but I do want to add a 4th C to our big 3 Cs. How about comp picks? Because those were announced.
We buried the lead,
Yeah, there's another comp pick. So we got a 5th round pick for Col Beasley.
I said this on the break yesterday. Is that smart front office play right there, and it's what I've been begging for the Cowboys to do for years. Is you don't have to spend $100 million in free agency to be aggressive, and going to get Robert Quinn for a 6th round pick, a guy who was capable of getting you 11.5 sacks, arguably the best player on your defense last year, and they basically got the pick right back. I think there's They got pick 179 in exchange for Beasley, and I believe they gave up pick 197. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about a 20 pick difference. So you're actually picking earlier,
and on the
after
field,
getting rid of your 6th.
And on the field, Col Beasley gave the Bills 67 catches, almost 800 yards. 6 touchdowns. Randall Cobb gave me 55 catches, over 800 yards.
I was going to say Cobb had a very comparable season.
At 1 year and $5 million, and Col Beasley signed a long-term deal in Buffalo. Like, it was just the smart play.
It's the type of thing I've been begging for the Cowboys to do for years. The one I always go back to is like the Eagles swapped draft picks 3 or 4 years ago for Timmy Jernigan.
Yeah.
Like a highly talented guy, devalued a little bit, but still a good player. And lo and behold, he goes and becomes a big part of their rush, during their Super Bowl year. That's the type of stuff you have to do. And it's nice to see the Cowboys pull something like that off. They get rewarded for it. So they're at their full allotment of draft picks, even after trading for a Pro Bowler. Very smart. Hopefully they continue to do stuff like that.
And it's crazy how overlooked comp picks and kind of the strategy and the chess game that's around those is kind of... It's crazy how overlooked it is whenever it comes to the NFL. Because look at... Who would you say over the past 20 years has been the best front office?
I know the answers to these questions.
The New England Patriots.
Yeah.
And they've got 4.
Yeah.
Compared to everyone else who's had 3 or less.
But who's had the most over like the last 20 years?
Ooh, I do not know that question.
Arguably, if not the Patriots, one of the best run front offices in the league, Baltimore. They get comp picks every single year.
All the time.
They use them on good players more often than not. I love the way they run stuff. But I mean, and it's a tricky thing to get into because the NFL doesn't reveal the formula. That's people are asking like, oh, will the Cowboys will get a comp pick for Byron Jones if he leaves, right? And I'm like, probably, but it depends on how much you spend in free agency, who you bring in, how much those guys play. But I mean, for the size of the deal Byron Jones is about to get, it's a pretty good guess that they'll get, I would assume, a 3rd round pick for him.
How much do you think Byron's going to get?
Like $90 million overall. Like 17 a year.
I was about to say, you tweeted out a couple days ago, I can't remember if it was Monday or Tuesday, but you said something along the lines of, this contract's going to be crazy for Byron Jones.
He's going to be the highest paid cornerback in the league, and, he only has 2 picks, and a lot of people care about that, and so people who don't know his name or Cowboy fans who have been watching him for 5 years and don't think that much of him because he doesn't get picks, they're going to see that number and freak the hell out.
Yeah.
But he's going to get a lot of money.
It's going to kind of turn around the thought process when it comes to corners, though, right? The fact that it's resetting the market, and he's not a guy who is.
I think that depends.
Getting interceptions.
I think that depends on who you talk to, because there's a lot of people. Our dear Jeffrey Kavanaugh,
Absolutely.
There's a lot of people who think the world of him and say, look at his coverage numbers, look at what teams do when they target him, aka nothing. And then there's just as many people that are like, you can't give that much money to somebody who doesn't help you get turnovers. Mm-hmm. And I think people are going to be really split. I mean, you go back to 2018, Byron was named All-Pro off the strength of a season where he had no picks. And I remember at the time, the Cowboys coaching staff was impressed and stunned that was possible, and they were like, good on everybody in the league for watching tape, because if you're not watching the tape, you're not realizing what Byron's doing. Mm-hmm. But he was instrumental to the defense's success that year. So I think he's worth it, but I don't begrudge people who say, well, you got to at least get your hands on a football. Like, yeah, it's a fair criticism.
Well, it's kind of like, and you mentioned the break earlier. We talked about it on Talking Cowboys a little bit this week, too, and Mickey Spagnola was saying, let's just re-sign everybody. It's kind of different whenever you've got a quarterback that's about to get paid and potentially a wide receiver, and then you've got to shore up the depth defensively.
Yeah.
Whenever you've got a guy like that, if this was any other offseason for the Dallas Cowboys, you would probably find a way to keep Byron Jones. He would be your top priority. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we'll find that out on Saturday.
And that's kind of where I'm leading, is that you don't have that you have to use your tags elsewhere, at least so we see. And, of course, the CBA being decided this weekend, all of it being postponed, both the CBA vote and also the start or the transition tag and franchise tag deadlines, those being pushed back as well to Monday. And then we get into free agency, or the legal tampering period, 1 second later.
Next week is going to be absolutely bonkers, and that is before you throw in the wrench of the coronavirus. Like, you don't know what could happen or what could change. Or, I mean, seriously, didn't yesterday, Wednesday, March 11th, I mean, there were enough stories to fill about a month.
Yep.
In about an 18-hour span. And
Tom Hanks, St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Who on earth knows what could be waiting for us on the other side of this weekend? And that's not without thinking that, like, the NFL is going to do the CBA, the tags, and then free agency all in about 72 hours. It's going to be wild.
That is wild. And it was a little bit eerie to think about, but at the same time, that's what you kind of do right now. I mean, going into yesterday, to your point, nobody had any idea that all of these men's basketball tournaments and March Madness tournaments are being canceled. Nobody knew that was going to happen going into yesterday. Now, there had been some rumors. The NBA then got suspended, and then all of that kind of ensued. We delayed the CBA voting. Is that going to be delayed again, or are we going to try and get this done before things really kind of get out of hand?
I mean, I know this isn't directly draft related, but I think it's relevant just because of how much it all ties together.
I think it's extremely relevant.
And not only in the sense of like how the league might operate, but just from the Cowboys standpoint, next week marks. I mean, they have a lot of work to do, really. I mean, obviously they're doing all the work on the draft, as are we. But they got a lot of work to do in free agency before they even know what their strategy needs to be.
What's the priority in the draft?
Yeah, so it's gonna be a really interesting 7 or 8 days here.
And we're finally going to see exactly maybe what that strategy could turn into for the Dallas Cowboys. Because right now we're saying if Byron's around, you could kind of stretch it, go safety, maybe even play around at wide receiver early in the draft, and then if Byron's gone.
I'm worried about the defensive line.
Defensive line, that's another one as well. I mean, there's plenty of options and plenty of decisions to be made. Once the dominoes start falling, we might be able to piece it together a little bit more in the coming weeks, hopefully, in the coming weeks. When we come back, Twitter on the 20 here on the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show presented by Miller Lite.
Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Want to show your Texas and team pride too? You can. By purchasing your own Stetson, you can look just like how the flag guys do on field at every home game. Stetson hats, the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys and your favorite football team. Get yours today in the Stadium Pro Shop or at Stetson.com.
Your new apartment's big. Such a great deal.
It's okay.
Just okay? What's not to...
Right above the subway!
Well, I bet you don't even notice it after the...
That's my neighbor, Angus!
A deal that's just okay is not okay. Get a great deal with America's Best Network. Come into an AT&T store to find out how to get one of our popular smartphones for $0 down. Based on GWS 1 score, September 2019.
Essilor is a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, helping fans see more and do more with our best vision solutions. Our lens technologies reveal a world more beautiful than you can imagine. For a limited time, get the Essilor Next Gen offer. When you buy the latest generation of Transitions lenses with select Essilor lenses, you can choose a second pair of clear lenses for free with qualifying frame purchases. Restrictions apply. Find a participating eye care professional by visiting EssilorUSA.com. Essilor. See more, do more.
So, you're shopping, and that's when you see it. Aisle 23. Dr. Pepper stacked from top to bottom as far as the eye can see. The phrase too good to be true comes to mind, yet there it is. A rich, delicious Dr. Pepper paradise. Wait, did that can of Dr. Pepper just open itself for you? They all are. As if to say, so nice to treat you. And even though it feels weird to talk to a can, you pick one up and say, it's so nice to be treated. Dr. Pepper, so nice to treat you.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star in Frisco. Kevin Turner, David Hellman, Kyle Yeoman's with you. The DallasCowboys.com Draft Show presented by Miller Lite. Glad you're with us. Let's take a look at Twitter on the 20.
Twitter on the 20.
Of course, a big week of decisions throughout for the Dallas Cowboys and really the NFL in general, with all of the different speculations and whatnot going through whenever it comes to the coronavirus and then CBA, like we talked about in that first segment. But I want to ask a Dave Hellman question.
Oh, boy.
Oh, I like this.
I'm going to keep it simple for you.
Please do.
This guy doesn't have a name on Twitter.
Okay.
Ooh.
He doesn't even have a picture of anything, but I don't even know who this basketball player. Oh, it's Caruso from the Lakers. This is his profile picture.
This is an egg. It's a Twitter egg.
No, maybe. Wide receiver at 17 or Riot. Go.
I mean, is that a question?
Are you rioting?
It depends on. It honestly depends on what happened. I mean, there is smoke that Amari Cooper could be signed before he hits free agency. That's separate from the question of like a tag or anything like that. I mean, if Amari Cooper's not on this team, then hell yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they need to draft a receiver, and they need one that can make an instant impact. Honestly, that's Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb are the two that I'm just no doubt whatsoever that they could make a rookie impact. I don't even know if I trust Ruggs to do that.
I don't either.
In a receiver core where there's no Amari Cooper to lean on, I don't know if I trust him to be
the number one,
to be that guy.
Yeah.
And so if Cooper's not on this team, then I think that skyrockets to the top of your priority list. Having said that, I think he is on this team one way or another. By hook or by crook, I think they find a way to keep him here.
Let's play it that way then.
Okay.
Cooper's here.
Yeah.
Wide receiver or right.
And that's what I keep going back to. Obviously, like Team 40 Burger, I love to talk about it. I'm very intrigued by it. I wouldn't hate that pick. But there's just so many other things they need to do. And this wide receiver class is so deep. If CeeDee Lamb is there, if he falls all the way, which I don't really believe, it looks like he had a really nice pro day yesterday in Norman, made another circus catch. It would be tough, and so you're like a wide receiver, arguably the best wide receiver in the class, or cornerback number 2, C.J. Henderson, safety number 1, Grant Delpit, who maybe you don't feel great about him at that spot.
Yeah,
I think that's the debate.
See, if I feel like I'm reaching for a player, then I have no problem doing that.
But how much of a reach though? Everybody's like, oh, trade back to 26 and take Delpit there and add a pick. Like, okay, that's great in theory, but what if you can't?
Yeah, it's easy to talk about. That hardly ever happens.
And if Grant Delpit's good enough to take at 24. Is it like this stupid? I believe that.
I swear, I think positional depth in the draft does matter. And we know that Will McClay, at least in his tenure, has taken a real good look at that. Depth in the draft and how they've mapped things out.
As you should. But
sometimes to their detriment.
Yes.
But sometimes it's been okay as well.
I mean, it's funny because the taco pick was a failure, but the strategy, we talked about this on a previous show, the strategy worked.
They nailed the strategy.
They got 2 cornerbacks capable of contributing right away in the second and third round. They just didn't draft the right defensive end. And that's kind of my point is we all agree that you could find a receiver capable of contributing right away as late as like the 4th round.
Yeah.
I don't love this safety class beyond Grant Delpit, Xavier McKinney, Ashton Davis. I'll throw in Kyle Duggar, even though I don't think the Cowboys will draft him, and obviously Antoine Winfield. I don't even know about that.
No, okay.
That's the thing. I don't feel great. If you don't draft a safety at 17, I don't feel great about a guy I love being there at 51. I don't know if
I think you're giving up on a potential starter if you don't draft safety at 17.
So that's my point. Is I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I can get a badass receiver at pick 82. I know I can.
I think last year was kind of an eye opener in how teams feel about the safety position in general.
Yeah.
When you saw those guys kind of fall, the Taylor Rapp and Juan Thornhill and Nasir Adderley, we saw it. Now you're banking on that to happen again, and that's risky business.
It is.
And we've seen teams really go pay safeties. Earl Thomas, the Honey Badger. We've seen a bunch of guys get paid at the safety position. This team has refrained from taking safeties for a long time now.
But
I don't see them spending a premium pick on a safety.
And I've been saying that for weeks. Yeah. Is like if Grant Delpit's not as good as Derwin James, then why should I believe that they're going to draft him at 17? But at the same time, another LSU guy, Tyrann Mathieu, just showed you the value of a versatile safety with ball skills, because safety doesn't even do the position justice, because Tyrann Mathieu played about 5 spots for the Chiefs, and I think Grant Delpit could do that too.
I've whittled it down to one guy I'm excited about at 17, and it's dangerous because he probably won't be there.
Who you got?
Kinlaw. And you know what? I do this most every year that the Cowboys are picking right in the middle. I whittle it down to guys I'm excited about at that area because I don't like being in the middle. It's not a good spot to be.
How can you whittle it down to one player?
Well, it was whittled down to 2 players in Zach Martin year. And it was Ryan Shazier and Zach Martin. I was like, oh, yeah, great.
I mean, it will be whittled down by April. But like right now, I just think there's too many possibilities for me to zero in on one guy. To answer the question more directly, I would be excited. But
you're not going to riot.
I mean, no. I would be excited if they picked a receiver, but if they don't, that's a responsible strategy. I'm not going to be mad about it.
Well, I feel way better about Team 40 Burger happening with McCarthy than with Garrett here, because Garrett did not want to play that way.
That's a great point. But Dave, kind of going back to what you said kind of early on, where you were talking about safeties that you weren't really excited about at 51.
Mm-hmm.
You threw out some names, but one name you didn't throw out was Antoine Winfield Jr. You
said
think he would be there at 51?
I threw him in at the very end when you brought up Chin.
Gotcha.
He's in that mix because a lot of teams are going to rule him out.
I would be ecstatic.
So, and it's the funny thing about the draft. To KT's point, like we were in love with Thornhill and Rapp, and there was another one.
We were in love with Xavier Woods and Desmond King, and those guys went in the 6th and 7th round.
All those guys fall.
Yeah.
They fell last year. So it's conceivable. I know people that don't think Winfield is a top 50 pick because of his length. He's 5'9".
He's not big.
I think there are people that think he was so impressive at the combine, and you add that to what he's got on tape, and they're like, this guy doesn't fall out of the top. He doesn't.
40 picks.
He's pick 45.
Yeah.
So there's no way to know for sure. I'd be ecstatic to draft Antoine Winfield at 51, but I don't feel great that he will be there for you.
I'm kind of in the same boat.
I've yet to find anyone who could come up and look me in the eye and give me anything aside from size and injury history that's concerning about him.
Yeah, but
because everything else is exciting.
Football IQ is there. I mean, his dad was a 14-year veteran in the league, and he literally, and I've got a story coming out on the Blitz later this week, but he literally would sit in bed and watch tape with his dad at 11 years old of his dad trying to cover Calvin Johnson, trying to cover Megatron. So he got a football IQ lesson from such an early age that he might be one of the smartest in terms of draft prospects, football IQ, and knowing when and where to be in the entire draft.
I think his time at the combine, I think he ran a 4.58, which, for safety, that's actually not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
But like you watch him on tape and you're like, okay, he's moving pretty fast here. Like he's moving around. He sees plays fast. He's a pretty good tackler. He will hit. He plays with attitude. He has ball skills. To me, the size is a problem, and we all know that the size is a problem. But so there's some things you just can't, like you can't have everything you want. You're not in a lab making robots here. Look, he's 5'9". I don't know what to tell you. You're either okay with it or you're not. And a lot of teams are not going to be okay with it. I'm personally okay with it because of the other things. He actually ran at the combine. He actually ran a 4.45.
No, he was really good.
Yeah.
He had a fantastic combine.
I haven't updated my springtime on him, which is a 4.58.
He's one of my 5 to 10 favorite prospects in the whole draft. I would be ecstatic. It's just interesting how teams value these guys, though, because I'm thinking about Taylor Rapp.
Yeah.
We spent the whole spring saying he won't even be there. He goes 3 picks after the Cowboys pick last year. And then another one that always comes to mind, KT, your Green Bay Packers. Remember how much we liked Darnell Savage?
Yeah.
We liked him as like a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah, 4th for me.
They made him...
They traded up from 30.
They made him a 1st-round pick.
Went up. They traded up from 30 to go up to 21 and get him.
There's just
and he was great.
No,
he had a great year.
There's no way, but there's just no way to know how these teams value these guys.
And you never know, like because
there's also Taylor Rapp had medical issues that weren't highly publicized,
and he was slow.
Yeah, that too.
And he was slow. And then, but Nasir Adderley, fluid mover. The big knock on him was he played at Delaware. That was the kind of thing with him. And did he want to tackle? And he slides. You get information in all kinds of different ways. But I heard through the grapevine that this team here for Darnell Savage was day 3.
No, they
weren't terribly excited.
They didn't know what the hell the Packers were doing.
Yeah.
So it's curious.
Awesome.
I mean, between his tape and what he did at the combine, I mean, hey, I'm 5'6". I don't care at all that Antoine Winfield's 5'9". Bring him on.
Well, kind of going, at least name-wise, with the first question. The first question was wide receiver or riot. The name of this Twitter account is Draft CD for another TD. So that's the legitimate name, and it's got some emojis on there. But it doesn't have anything to do with wide receiver. Who can the Cowboys afford to pass on more? I think I might know KT's answer to this question. Javon Kinlaw or C.J. Henderson, since the interior defensive line and cornerback class is not very deep. Kind of going along with the same thing we were talking about with the safeties, but Who's the worst one to pass on?
You want to go first?
Well, part of it does. Part of it does. I have Kinlaw graded way higher than C.J. Henderson, so let's put it that way first. So that's one part of it. I think there's an Anthony Brown component in free agency that we'll find out.
Yep.
If they're going to be willing to, if he will take it, might be up to him how much he wants to be here.
True.
Maybe one of those type of things. And if it feels like Byron's gone, I still think you can get a cornerback in the second round that would be to your liking. There's a chance the cornerbacks slide a little bit. And I don't think Trevon Diggs gets there, but there's a chance he does. I don't think Christian Fulton falls that far, but I think there's a chance. I don't think it's nuts.
51?
I don't think it's nuts, man. There's 6 guys. There are really 5 guys. They're all the corners that everyone's been talking about, right?
There's no way.
Let's throw Damon Arnett in there and make that 6, okay?
Okay, Damon Arnett could fall that far.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely he could, especially considering there's off-the-field questions to him as well.
That was my point.
But
Trevon Diggs and Christian Fulton,
I don't think
they're not falling out of the top 50.
Most likely not. But just play with me for a minute.
Okay, I'll play along.
Arnett, okay, playing in this. There's 6 guys. You like the Auburn guy?
Yes.
Igbenogany. There we go. No way?
Noah. His name's Noah.
I thought you said
you
no
gotta
way.
say these guys' names so people know who the hell you're talking
out of
about.
Auburn.
Why I always refrain from saying his name. I just say the Auburn quarterback.
It's got like 12 letters in it.
So there's 7 guys I just threw at you guys. All right,
Yeah.
7 guys. There's going to be a cornerback drafted once every 7 picks in this draft. Because that's if you're picking at pick 51, that's what we're saying.
You gotta have
one
him.
every 7 picks.
okay.
So there's going to be 6 offensive linemen gone. There's going to be 4 quarterbacks for sure gone in the first round, most likely. There's going to be wide receivers taken. I feel like you're in a situation where you can get a cornerback at 51 that would be pleasing. Defensive tackle. Who do you like? Do you like the Jordan Elliott, Neville Gallimore type? Jordan Elliott from Missouri, Neville Gallimore from Oklahoma. Do you like that type at 51 more than you like one of these corners I'm throwing at you?
Justin Madubuike is a name that I think you should have circled.
I think so too.
I think you should have him circled for early second round.
Yeah, he might not be there.
He's on my not get to 51
I think
list.
both Justin Madubuike out of A&M and then Ross Blacklock from TCU, I think both of those guys who we had our eyes on and circled early, I think they're inching up away and out of reach, which is unfortunate.
But here's where I go back to is and we don't know. There's no way to know, but this team has so little in the way of defensive tackles. They can't afford to not do work in free agency. And the interior defensive line crop in free agency is so much better than the cornerback crop.
Yeah.
Like, you go down the list, there's about 3 names on the cornerback free agent list that pique your interest.
And one of them you're letting walk.
Wait, I was going to say, one of them you're letting leave.
Yeah.
Chris Harris is out there. That could be a little out of the Cowboys' price range. Maybe you bring back Anthony Brown. Bashad Breeland is a name that's intriguing to me, but exactly. I mean,
well, you know what? He's got history with McCarthy.
No, for sure, and it's possible, but it's not a name that gets you excited. My point being, I think the Cowboys can address their D-tackle needs a little bit better in free agency than cornerback, which is why I cannot discount C.J. Henderson simply because it feels like the perfect mesh of value and need in the sense that we need a guy, he'll be under contract for 5 years. He can start right away if he needs to. And it fits. He's the second or third best cornerback in the draft. That's exactly, 17 sounds exactly right.
And the position group's going to have to be remade either way because next year Jordan Lewis and Cheeto are going to be free agents. And I guess another thing I would say, there's really no point in having verbal warfare over this Twitter on the 20 question, considering that it's a question that's would be best answered with more information, in 2 weeks.
When has not
in 2 weeks I can help you out here and really.
When has
give you a
not
good answer
having
on that.
enough information ever stopped us?
That's a good
If you're
point.
taking Henderson over Kinlaw, it better be because Kinlaw's knees are messed up. Because Kinlaw's a better player than Henderson. Just big board and stacking them up. Like, Kinlaw's the guy you better be high. Like, to me, that's a weird thing to pass up right there. Because Henderson doesn't touch the upside that Kinlaw has. Not even close.
If Kinlaw's knee checks out, don't you feel like he's gone in the top 15 anyway?
Yeah, he's probably not going to be there.
I do, and I think that makes the wide receiver thing become a little more of a topic.
Yeah. See, and here's what I was going to kind of pull up here. And we talked about safety a moment ago. We talked a little bit of wide receiver in that first segment. But if if we're looking at C.J. Henderson or Javon Kinlaw, and then looking at the remainder of the draft, I think it's not out of the question that you would say neither one of these guys are drafted in the first round at 17, even if they're both there. Because there's maybe a wide receiver that piques interest. There's other positional needs. You can fill defensive tackle in free agency. You can fill a cornerback spot in the second round of the draft. You guys are talking me into the fact that safety or wide receiver at 17 is not as crazy as we were kind of thinking, or I was thinking coming into the show. Just because of the sole fact that I'm still sold, by the way, that wide receiver is not going to be there at 17. That's not what the Cowboys are going to pick. I'm sold on that. I don't think that's happening. But safety, this kind of makes me think that it might be safer to go with a safety at 17, try and get a cornerback instead of C.J. Henderson in the second round.
I just don't think they'll do that. I think they'll party at safety and free agency. I think they'll look around. And I don't know. I could be wrong. It's a whole new regime, so it's hard to answer questions. Would anybody be surprised if Jeff Heath is your starting safety next year?
No.
No.
I know that's going to make everyone's
I wouldn't be surprised.
Turn into hypnosis, but like seriously, it wouldn't be nuts if the safety value, the guy we liked didn't fall into our lap, so we want because they're going to address up front and they're going to address cornerback. That's going to happen.
I'm going to have a close, assuming it happens with the coronavirus and everything, but LSU is a late pro day.
Super late. It's like April.
It's April 3rd.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a close eye on it if it happens because I think people are down on Grant Delpit right now, but when he works out,
oh my God, yes.
The media is always behind the pros, right? Like the pros don't need to see that, but when he works out, I think he's going to vault back into the conversation because he's going to put up some freaky numbers, I think.
That'll be fun to watch. Let's do two more quick questions.
All right.
First one, what is the latest round you believe the Cowboys could draft a guy that is starting come September?
Just period?
Period.
I mean,
any position.
I think of the top 100 picks as, they should be contributing heavily, if not starting. I mean, Michael Gallup started from day one as pick 81, but Tristan Hill barely played as pick 58. So, okay. I mean, if you're doing your job right, I think the first 3 rounds should be starter caliber, and then your 4th round pick has a chance, depending on what position he plays, what the need is.
Could you get a 4th round wide receiver that's starting?
I think that's where I was about to go.
That's kind of where I think this question's leading.
If Cobb doesn't come back, then I think you're KJ Hill from Ohio State, you're Duvernay from Texas,
would love that. Michael Pittman from
USC. I think they'll like John Hightower from Boise State.
Yeah,
is a gimmicky guy. Those are kind of Van Jefferson got hurt. He may fall a little bit. The wide receiver from Florida, Van Jefferson,
I'm telling you, man,
excellent route runner, but he's hurt a little bit. I could dock him a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised.
We know the Cowboys' full order now, by the way.
Thank goodness.
So I think pick 123 is their 4th round pick.
Yeah, and we saw them go. Yeah, well, I'll check it for you.
You'll have a good player there. Is my point.
Yeah. Yes, you will.
So this is just pure reading between the lines, pure hunch, but I think Randall Cobb is back. I think he's back on a similar deal, maybe worth a little bit more. And so I don't think unless they go at pick 17 or 51, I don't think a receiver that they draft would start. But, Mecole Hardman, he was a 2nd round pick for the Chiefs last year. Didn't necessarily start, but was a valuable piece of that offense as their speed guy, or another speed guy, because they got a million of them.
And kind of going back to Randall Cobb really quickly here, out of this past season, of course, it's easy to fall in love with this wide receiver class. I mean, all of us here have done so. We've fallen in love with this wide receiver class. But a lot of people forget the kind of year that Randall Cobb had, especially at the beginning of the year. Did anybody have worse luck than Randall Cobb? It seemed like every touchdown, every catch that he had was called back for a penalty. He had, I think, 2 or 3 touchdowns called back.
At least 2 in the first month of the season.
Yeah, it was real early, and a lot of people forget about that.
He had a nice season, and I don't mean to dog him because I thought he played really well, but him and Dak could not get on the same page in the crucial moments.
He had some drops.
3rd down drop in New Orleans that kind of changed the
was big.
The 4th quarter. There are some others if I think about them.
Are you talking about the dive in the fourth quarter in the end zone? Or
no, that was in the first quarter. No,
that was in the first quarter. You're right.
Third and 5. It was a crossing route, and Dak threw it a little behind him, but it was definitely a catchable pass.
He's always been a guy that they'll have some drops. So it may not be a starter, but like impactful.
Mm-hmm.
I think we saw them go tight end there a couple years ago with Dalton Schultz. Yeah. I think they have a better chance of getting a better tight end in that fourth round area because the tight ends aren't top heavy, but they will start going.
It's going to be a run.
Round 3, round 4, maybe. I got to keep an eye on. I think he's a pretty good route running tight end, and I think they might like because he can block a little bit too. Bryson Hopkins of Purdue is a guy I kind of like in that fourth round. That range right there. Or if he's sitting there, you go, man, I might as well take this guy. And then I got Hopkins and Jarwin, and let's go. Granted, we still don't know what's going to happen with Witten. But, man, you look at Hopkins last year, 61 catches, had 7 touchdowns. You guys saw him at the Senior Bowl, of course.
Yep.
15 yards a catch. Get down the field a little bit. They're going to try to get down the field. They're going to try to be a faster offense. It's just going to be a little different than it was. McCarthy is going to try to put up 30 and 40 burgers.
Let's go. I'm here for it.
That's the type of pick I would kind of like if Hopkins or someone like that was still on the board. I know we've talked a little bit about Harrison Bryant from
Florida Atlantic.
FAU. That area, maybe those guys could help you a little bit, but Hopkins is a little more route running, got a little swivel to his game, and I'd be highly interested in him if he were to fall to the fourth round as a helper.
He'll be there.
As a helper
I think
Jarwin.
He'll be there at 123.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any defensive players that could, Malik Collins started right away as a third round pick.
Sure.
That was pick 67, though. It's a much higher pick, but if a defensive tackle were to fall,
that's kind of a range too, and maybe I'm a little further down on the guy than like a guy like Jeff. Like Jeff loves the guy, but Terrell Burgess, safety from Utah.
Yeah.
Maybe he could get to the fourth round, man. I don't know. Looking at the safety class, if I kind of think it's going to stretch a little bit because the Ashton Davises of the world, the Kyle Duggar, Jeremy Chin, some of those guys could push it. There maybe be one fourth round safety that you like. And Terrell Burgess is kind of my fourth round safety guy that I've got highlighted as, okay, I would go there. His length makes me nervous. His finish on tackles makes me nervous. Although draft Twitter got all in my face telling me he's a reliable tackler. I think he's an okay tackler. I don't think he's a reliable tackler. I think he's an okay tackler who doesn't need to be playing up near the line of scrimmage at all.
If there's anything I've learned about draft Twitter, it's that you can find an opinion on every player. Like somebody hates everyone and somebody loves everyone.
Sure. It's crazy.
Just the way it goes.
It all just piles on. 60 seconds. One final question.
Oh, okay.
What do you think of the Dallas Cowboys taking a linebacker in Kenan Murray out of Oklahoma in the first round after a report that they have a meeting scheduled with him?
I mean, that's why, okay, I don't want to.
If you're going 3-4, I'm okay with it.
That's why I don't think meetings always mean everything, because I just think teams do their due diligence. I don't want to discount it completely, but man, we talked about this in Indy. That just, and I get it. It's fair to worry about Leighton Vander Esch's health. It's very fair. I don't think you should buy the line that he's 100% okay and everything's fine. You don't have to believe that. I'm not here to sell you propaganda, but I need more evidence that he can't stay healthy before I'm ready to just pull the plug. And that's what drafting a first-round linebacker is to me. Mm-hmm. Like, well, this guy he can't stay healthy. It was a bad pick, and we need to fix it right away. Like, that's what a first-round pick would signal to me. If you took Kenneth Murray or Patrick Queen, I mean, so either you're saying you don't think Leighton's going to play, or you have so little faith that you need a premium backup right now. I don't like the idea of that at all. If you want, what I would love, Anthony Hitchens was a fourth-round pick.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Find me that guy.
I got those for you, man.
If the value lines up in the third round to where you say, linebacker's not a huge need, but this guy can play, I'm fine with that. But a first-round pick on a position where you just drafted Leighton, you got him for 3 more years if you pick up his option, and you just paid Jalen, that just leaves a really bad taste in my mouth.
Mike McCarthy says he wants good football players. Kenneth Murray's a really good football player.
That
could
would
go
be
3-4. Things could get interesting.
That would be
Jalen rushing.
That would be the ultimate.
It could be interesting.
It would be the ultimate signal that McCarthy means what he says.
Yeah.
If they were to take
ultimate
Kenneth
test
Murray.
of BPA. best player available.
I'd rather have a defensive back.
Yeah, that's fair.
Or a
We're going to take a
receiver.
break.
Yeah.
When we come back, we're going to get a little bit wild here in the SWBC Mortgage Studios. Reckless comps going into the 2020 draft when we return here on the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
I'm Jay Novacek, former tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. Back in the day, I was the guy who always got the tough yards, and that's why I run with John Deere today. In fact, I have a John Deere 3025E tractor that can handle any yard work I need to do, even the tough yards way out back. So if you have 1 acre or 1,000, John Deere has the equipment that's just right for you. Visit a John Deere dealer today and run with us. We are the official tractor provider of your Dallas Cowboys.
Essilor is a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, helping fans see more and do more with our best vision solutions. Our lens technologies reveal a world more beautiful than you can imagine. For a limited time, get the Essilor Next Gen offer. When you buy the latest generation of Transitions lenses with select Essilor lenses, you can choose a second pair of clear lenses for free with qualifying frame purchases. Restrictions apply. Find a participating eye care professional by visiting EssilorUSA.com. Essilor. See more, do more.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
Your new apartment's big. Such a great deal.
It's okay.
Just okay? What's not to?
Right above the subway.
Well, I bet you don't even notice it after the...
That's my neighbor, Angus.
A deal that's just okay is not okay. Get a great deal with America's Best Network. Come into an AT&T store to find out how to get one of our popular smartphones for $0 down, based on GWS One score September 2019.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here from the SWBC Mortgage Studios, and we're dropping like flies in the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. It's down to me and KT because Dave has scurried off elsewhere, dealing with breaking news maybe. I don't know.
Right.
I think he's going to the restroom. But he'll be back here in just a couple of moments, and it's time to get into some reckless comps. And KT, you brought up this idea a couple weeks ago. We didn't get a chance to get to it just solely based on the fact of we were trying to get into our stock up, stock down when it came to the NFL Combine. But this is a lot of fun. Kind of explain the reasoning behind a reckless comp.
Yeah, the premise is that, there are some people who don't like to do comps. By comps, I mean player comparisons.
Yep.
And I'm not like a big fan of like, hey, there's a player comparison. No, it's the same person, because I think it sets unrealistic expectations. But I do think sometimes when you're watching tape on these guys, you'll go, oh, he reminds me of him, and he reminds me of him. So I like doing reckless comps. So I like being a little bit reckless
Just
sometimes.
steer into the skid, kind of deal.
So it's like basically it's I've got a list of about 7 or 8 guys that I've seen, and when I watched them on tape, I wrote down in my notes, he kind of reminds me of this. Mm-hmm. And that's just something, if you guys have some of your own, feel free to throw them out there. The first one that I have is, trust me, it's not the same thing at all.
Oh, gosh.
But
that's not being reckless.
There's a few things that reminded me of Teddy Bridgewater and Jake Fromm. And I am not a Jake Fromm fan. I think going to pick him in round 2, I think that's a wasted pick. Mm-hmm. Okay? But some of the things and the question marks that were coming out about Teddy Bridgewater, some of the things that you talked about him, well, his arm strength, it's not there. It's not enough arm strength, but pretty good touch, pretty good accuracy. You look at him in college, oh, yeah, they had a bunch of, 8-man boxes. He had to deal with that a lot. Kind of see that with Jake Fromm a little bit. We watch him on tape. Some of the same questions about him. You're going to have size issues with him. You're going to have arm strength questions with him. But accuracy, game manager type, those type of stereotypes, I kind of see the same thing
that's
there.
That's exactly what Jake Fromm is. And, with the running backs he played with, that's no surprise. And that's – he's the classic case of, like, I don't know, if you're a quarterback that's worth drafting high, then I should see you, like, really elevate your team. You know what I mean? Like, elevate, make plays that out of this world plays, carry your team to wins that maybe they shouldn't have had otherwise. I don't know if I ever saw that from Jake Fromm.
No, I think you occasionally saw that with Justin Herbert in Oregon.
Yeah.
It's a little more difficult with Utah State because when Utah State's coach left and went to Texas Tech, Jordan Love was not left with much to work with at Utah State.
And, I mean, that's a tough part of the evaluation.
Interesting.
I remember thinking similar things about Jared Goff, honestly. Yeah. It was like, is Cal really accomplishing as much as they should be if Jared Goff is the number 1 overall pick?
That's always just dangerous, like go trust what you're watching type thing. When I watch Jake Fromm, I don't always see a guy who is as accurate as you may read about. No. You know, I was like watching it going, even at the combine,
I didn't think he's as consistent as people really make him out to be.
He's not.
He's not a lock on accuracy. And that's kind of one thing I've had to knock on him too, is there's those throws every now and again where it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, Bridgewater was a much better college player.
Yeah, 100%.
Again, this is why it's a reckless comp. There's got to be a lot of criteria that goes along with this. Let's move it along to the next one.
Hit me.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire from LSU, the running back.
Talk to me.
Go Tigers.
I see Devontae Freeman.
Really?
Okay. You not see Devontae Freeman at all? Tough runner. Able to kind of jump cut, get lateral sometimes. He will run through people. He's a bowling ball. And then no one really talks about his hands too much. Like they're talking about how much of a runner he is. He's good hands. You know what? Coming out of Florida State, no one really talked about Devontae Freeman as a pass catcher.
I like this comp,
and they quickly learned, oh, wait, he can.
Yeah.
Because he went to the Falcons and they started to use him. So I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Devontae Freeman makes a lot of sense. I think he probably goes, round 2.
I'm going to go real snob on you real quick. Uh-huh. It's Elaire.
No, it's huge. Dude, trust me, I've never been one of those like pronunciation police. I'm from the country, man. I pronounce toilet. Yeah, it's like
I like it.
I still Tuesday, man. It's fine. I'm not a professional broadcaster guy. I've never been that.
I saw a mock draft that had Clyde going to the Chiefs as if they need another weapon.
Oh man,
but
that's
God,
fun.
That would be really fun to watch. I like that comp a lot because Freeman really. He came on so much because of his abilities as a pass catcher, and I absolutely see Clyde doing something similar.
I've always kind of looked at Clyde as a guy almost like a Frank Gore type, where it's kind of just a stocky bowling ball. And I know he's a little bit more lateral than Gore. Gore's straight line, straight up the middle, and I don't think they're running size, but I'm talking about size in general. I think it just kind of, that's what it reminded me on tape. Now,
if you want to get reckless,
it's a little bit more... Go for it.
Clyde, and I get it. It's too easy because they're both short, but Clyde just reminds me of Darren Sproles.
Mm-hmm.
Impossible to tackle, low center of gravity.
Yeah.
All of his strength is in his lower body, can cut on a dime. He catches the ball well. Sproles, he's been great everywhere, but man, he was so...
Sproles is a little thinner, though, isn't he?
Sproles is even smaller than Clyde.
That's what
for
I'm
sure.
saying.
Yeah.
No, but just their games are so similar.
Clyde's just less gimmicky. Clyde is more of a every down back type guy. He can do that. Look at me, at 55 catches last year. He showed on tape that he could, be a pass catcher. With Devontae Freeman coming out of college, I think he had about that many catches in 3 years at Florida State.
Yeah.
He never had a year of more than 20 catches. He got to the NFL, and I remember we were watching him. I loved him coming out of the draft. It was at 2014 or whatever year that was, and one of the things that I had checked over, he can catch. They just got to go somewhere where he's used in that regard. Atlanta's dumping it off to him all the time, and he shows everyone. Let's keep it going because we're short on time. Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's a wide receiver from Michigan.
Yes, he's a workout warrior.
He
man.
was
workout warrior. Production was questionable. Okay.
Yep. Did not. Okay, sorry. I keep cutting you off.
Well, my reckless comp for him is Josh Doxson, who both 6'2", both right around that 4.5 40, sub 4.5 guy, jump ball guys. Don't always see everything you want to see consistently. You don't always see great route running, but when it was time to throw the ball up to a guy, that's what happened at their schools. And Doxson went in the first round. Peoples-Jones is not going to go in the first round. He did not do near enough to be drafted that high, but some team's going to take a shot on him, and it wouldn't surprise me if he ended up in the top 100 just because he's got freaky athletic traits, and he could be way more than what he was in college.
As long as we're talking about, was Doxson 2017? Don't worry about it because I got a
tough one.
I got a receiver comp. I think I've told you this before, and you didn't like it. I don't care. James Prochet.
Okay. Oh, I like this.
Reminds me of DJ Moore. Which I know
James. I think I remember you saying
poor man's DJ Moore.
He's not. I mean, he's not going in the first round. But I love DJ Moore so much because, like, not the most imposing guy. You know, I'm looking at him. He's 5'11", 215. Like, he could be a running back if he wanted to be. And Prochet is a little lighter, but he's almost 5'11", 201 was his combine measurement. And like, they look like running backs when they get the ball in their hand. Like, they're hard to tackle. They have incredible vision. And then obviously Prochet catches everything you throw his way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And more power to this receiver class, because if that's going to push him down, you talk about a 4th round pick that would make me do a backflip, James Prochet. And I mean, yeah, he's not a 1st round pick like DJ Moore, but I just think their games are really similar.
There's a history with those SMU wide receivers too.
Dallas Day guy as well.
Dallas Day guy.
This one I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. Same uniform. Marshawn Lattimore, Jeffrey Okudah, Ohio State. Both clear number 1 cornerbacks in the class.
I've got that
both
one written down here too.
Fluid man cover corners, just ridiculous. KJ Hill from Ohio State. Jarvis Landry.
Wow.
You said
LSU.
that.
Holy cow.
Bring it on.
That's reckless.
Neither guy going to blow up the combine. Both find a way to get open. Went with their smarts, highly competitive, attitudinal guys, and not in a bad way, in a way that's good. You know, that guy who's, it's 3rd and 4, I'm going to get it to this guy, and he'll go get the catch for me, is going to find a way to get enough separation, and you don't always know how because they're not burners, but they just do a great job of manipulating the defender. Just a guy that understands how to get open. KJ Hill is a poor man Jarvis Landry, and I think that's very interesting.
I love that comp. I want to go. I know we're running out of time, but the Lattimore Okudah pick just perked my interest because Lattimore was similarly hyped to Okudah.
Yeah.
Like, can't miss, number 1 cornerback prospect. He fell to 11.
Hammy.
Chronic hammy?
He had hamstring. Remember, there were big questions about.
Honestly, I don't. 3 years ago feels like a lifetime.
And you know who else in that same draft? Because another thing that Lattimore had to deal with is Malik Hooker was also highly touted.
Which he fell as well.
And he fell as well because of his frame, and he was skinny, and teams were worried if he could tackle or whatever. But when you got a guy who can move like that and make plays on the ball, then you don't think about it twice.
I just wonder, because I could see Okudah going number 3 overall. I could also see him, quote unquote, sliding
to the lower 10,
like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Not a huge slide, but it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Derek Brown of Auburn, defensive tackle. Akeem Hicks, Chicago Bears.
Nice.
Ayo.
Big time playmaker. I'm going to spend a lot of time on that one though. Zach Bond, Wisconsin.
Go ahead, do it. Just say it.
Don't you say it.
Kyle Van Noy.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to go.
No, I wasn't going to TJ Watt. I
thought you were going TJ Watt, yeah.
They're really not that similar at all. Kyle Van Noy. You've watched Van Noy, who now with Detroit, but after years with the Patriots, we've all seen him.
He's back with Detroit?
No, wait. He's with New England now. He was with Detroit.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Detroit traded him for a sack of peanuts, and he turned into a great player.
When you watch him, not only does he rush the passer, but he can cover too.
Yeah.
And that's what you see with Zach Bond. What is the team going to do with him? Both in that kind of 6'2", 6'3" range. So I think that's an interesting, reckless comparison.
Also, not to mention, Van Noy is going to be a free agent, I believe, this season, right?
I believe he is,
I think he's a free agent.
Is he a free agent now?
I think so.
I hope.
I think he is, yeah.
I hope the Mike McCarthy Cowboys are a little more willing to draft that type of doesn't necessarily have a role Swiss Army
Fits
knife player.
Yeah, I think that's a great way.
I think they will.
The Patriots have built their defense that way, and it's been one of the best in the league.
Now, we are out of time, but I want to jump in on the fun here because I haven't given a comp yet.
I like
and
this.
I'm going to cap this off. Jalen Hurts. What's the question around Jalen Hurts? Accuracy.
Process the field.
Processing the field, a little bit of recklessness, release, different kind of fundamentals.
So what do you got?
I'm going to make everyone in Cowboys Nation upset right now.
Okay.
Dak Prescott. Comparison between Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott.
Way more athletic than Dak.
Yeah, way more athletic. But Dak's got his pluses a little bit more so than Jalen on another couple of things.
Could Jalen Hurts go in on a good team and go win games?
I think so.
If he goes to the right system, I think he probably could.
And they're probably going to go right around 3rd and 4th round.
Yeah.
In March of his draft process, I don't think anybody believed that about Dak.
No.
No. But and this whole thing, we spent all these years like killing Linehan and Garrett, but in that 2016 year, that was the perfect thing for Dak.
It really was.
that system. Like, that situation was really good.
I mean, it's always interesting. So OU's pro day is out of the way. Jalen Hurts killed it. He had an awesome workout.
Great.
I don't value pro days for quarterbacks that much because you're throwing to guys you've been throwing to all year. And it's scripted to be in your favor. Like you're going to throw routes that you feel good about.
No doubt.
But I can't knock the guy. Like, he looked great. I wonder what his ceiling is. Like, I don't think I would draft him in the second round.
No.
But I mean, somebody might
take a chance on him, though.
I could convince myself that somebody would, for sure.
I think somebody might, if they need a premium backup or they've got a veteran aging quarterback.
Okay.
There's a way to go.
I'm not saying any of these guys will be successful, but as long as we're being reckless, I think I would feel better drafting Jalen Hurts than not just Jake Fromm, but Jacob Eason as well. Like, I'm not sold on either of those guys.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of those guys.
And I'm not saying I'm sold on Jalen Hurts as an NFL quarterback, but I think there's more potential there.
Sure.
Well, we've been reckless with our comps, and we've also been reckless with our time because we're about 5 minutes over. But that is going to do it here for the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. As always, presented by Miller Lite. For Kevin Turner, for David Hellman, I'm Kyle Yeomans. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Wash your hands, everybody.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.